have a quick question for you before we get into anything today.
Okay, shoot.
And I want you to actually sit with this for a second. It sounds simple, but I promise it is a trap. Here it is. If a robot can make a product for completely free, what exactly is your dollar buying?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is the perfect trap to start with.
Right.
Because it forces us to immediately question, the one metric we use to measure almost everything in our lives.
Exactly. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are spending this session on a really fascinating thought experiment pulled from our sources today.
It's a heavy one, too.
It really is. We are unpacking automation, the impending death of physical scarcity, and basically the massive psychological crisis waiting for anyone who currently ties their self-worth directly to their bank account.
Yeah, to really get our heads around the mechanics of this, I want you to picture a very specific scene from the source material.
Okay, paint the picture.
Imagine a fully automated closed-loop factory. On the roof, you have this massive array of high-efficiency solar panels.
Just capturing free energy from the sun.
Right, totally free energy. And on the factory floor, there are 0 humans. None.
Wow.
Just robotic systems. And tying the whole thing together is an AI running the entire operation.
So it's basically a giant brain running a mechanical body.
Essentially, yes. This system analyzes market trends, designs the product, sources the raw materials using automated drones, builds it, boxes it, and ships it directly to your door.
I mean, the sheer lack of friction in that scenario is it's the part that breaks the brain.
It really is.
Because if we look at the mechanics of a traditional supply chain, it is essentially just a mountain of human friction.
Oh, absolutely.
You have payroll, HR departments, health insurance, middle management. You have wholesalers negotiating with retailers. Every single time a product changes hands, a human being takes a cut to pay for their own survival.
Yeah, everyone needs to eat.
Right. But in that humming factory you just described, the only real cost is electricity. And since the sun is paying that bill, the cost essentially drops to 0.
Exactly. It creates a state of what economists call zero marginal cost.
Okay, break that down for me.
Sure. So the cost to produce the very first widget might involve, some initial capital for the robots. But the cost to produce the 10 millionth widget is essentially 0. Every layer of traditional cost just completely evaporates.
So there isn't even, a guy named Greg in procurement.
Devastating news for Greg, but yes, no Greg.
Poor Greg.
The AI isn't emailing a vendor to negotiate bulk pricing on aluminum. It is communicating API to API with an automated mining facility.
Honestly, Greg knows what he did.
Yeah, he had a good run.
But seriously, the visual here is just a machine humming to itself, quietly manufacturing absolute abundance. It doesn't need a lunch break. It doesn't need a pension. It just produces.
Just endless, quiet abundance.
But that humming machine creates a massive problem for the outside world, doesn't it? Because if a product takes 0 human effort to make and costs absolutely nothing to duplicate, the price tag logically has to trend towards 0.
It has to. Which brings us to the existential crisis of the dollar. Or really any fiat currency for that matter.
Right, because if things are free, what's the point of the money?
Precisely. To understand why infinite abundance breaks the dollar, we have to look at the mechanics of what fiat money actually is. Because, fiat currency isn't backed by gold or physical assets anymore.
It's backed by faith.
Faith, yes. But more importantly, it is a tool designed specifically to manage scarcity.
Right. Central banks essentially use interest rates as a throttle.
Exactly.
Like if there are too few houses and too many buyers, they raise rates to make money more expensive, which cools the demand down. Money is just a rationing ticket for limited resources and limited human labor.
But think about what happens if human labor is completely removed from the equation.
The throttle stops working.
The central bank's throttle snaps completely off.
Right.
If the resources are endlessly recyclable or infinitely harvestable by machines, there is nothing left to ration. The dollar was engineered for a world of limits. In a world of infinite automated production, the utility of a rationing ticket just vanishes entirely.
The source material has this genuinely sad visual that perfectly captures this mechanism breaking down.
Oh, I love this part.
Yeah, imagine the mighty dollar, right?
Right.
The thing that has driven empires, built nations, consumed whole human lives, and it is just left standing there in the middle of this fully automated facility, holding a tiny, pathetic little sign that says value, just pointing at a massive warehouse full of completely free, high-quality stuff.
It is such a striking image. And it's so different from what we usually picture.
Yeah, it's not like an apocalypse movie.
Right. When we think of economic collapse, we usually picture chaos.
Mm.
Hyperinflation, people storming the gates, some violent revolution in the street.
Torches and pitchforks.
Exactly. But the source highlights a crucial, really fascinating distinction here. When this shift to quiet abundance happens, nobody physically attacks the dollar.
Right.
There is no violent uprising against the central banking system.
Right.
The dollar just gets embarrassed.
Embarrassed. The analogy from the text on this is absolutely brutal.
It is.
It likens the dollar to the guy at a party who is still loudly telling his high school touchdown story. And he's completely oblivious to the fact that everyone else has quietly drifted into the kitchen to talk about something else.
It's just awkward.
Very awkward. The relevance doesn't explode. It just fades.
Because we all have a touchdown story in our lives, right? A past glory we hold on to. But the dollar's only touchdown story was scarcity.
And scarcity is gone.
Right. Its entire identity, its whole reason for being invited to the global party in the first place was the undeniable fact that there wasn't enough stuff to go around.
And scarcity just left the building, so the dollar is just standing by the punch bowl talking to itself about the gold standard.
Is it much?
But this pushes us into territory that is a lot deeper and, frankly, a lot darker. Because this thought experiment isn't actually about the currency itself.
No, not at all.
Paper and coins don't have feelings. This is about the people who essentially became the dollar.
Yeah, we are stepping into the profound psychological trap of hyper-financialization here.
It's a big trap.
Massive. For the last century, industrial society has basically trained human beings to view themselves as capital. A lot of people didn't just go to work to earn rationing tickets for food and shelter. The psychological wiring went much, much deeper.
Right, they internalized it.
Exactly. Over time, they fused their entire internal sense of self to an external number in an app on their phone.
You see this constantly. People have turned a unit of macroeconomic exchange into a literal personality trait.
They really have.
When they open their banking app and the number is green and going up, they experience a literal dopamine hit. They feel powerful.
They feel validated by the universe.
Yes, they feel like they matter in the social hierarchy. And conversely, when the market crashes or that number goes down, they feel completely worthless.
Yeah, their entire emotional state is tethered to a digital scoreboard.
It is the ultimate gamification of survival. But the danger of outsourcing your identity to a scoreboard is that you are entirely at the mercy of whoever or whatever controls the points.
Exactly.
So if you are listening to this right now, I want to ask you something. What happens when you wake up on a Tuesday and realize your bank balance doesn't mean anything anymore?
That is going to be a bad Tuesday.
A very bad Tuesday. What happens when absolute abundance makes the scoreboard glitch out and the points you spent 50 years accumulating just stop counting?
It is going to be a profound psychological shock.
Yeah.
I mean, you are looking at an entire generation of people who will be forced to face a deeply uncomfortable truth.
Which is?
They will have to realize that they were never their bank balance. They were a complex, multidimensional person the entire time. But they made a subconscious choice to outsource their identity to a financial placeholder.
And now a solar-powered machine humming quietly in a factory has made that placeholder mathematically obsolete.
It's almost a cosmic joke, really.
Yeah, it kind of is. We spent centuries waging wars, destroying ecosystems, and stressing ourselves into early graves over this placeholder. And a robot just comes along and says, oh, you don't need to do that anymore. Here's a free chair.
Just hand it out for free.
But as funny as the irony is, I can see how dangerous that Tuesday is going to be. If you strip away the one metric someone uses to justify their existence, things could get very dark very fast.
The existential dread is completely real. But the source material provides a fascinating pivot right here.
Okay, what's the pivot?
Well, the death of physical scarcity doesn't mean the death of value. It just triggers a massive reallocation of where value actually lives.
Okay, so value just moves somewhere else.
Exactly. The things that hold their premium in a world where physical production is free are the exact things you cannot automate.
So if the physical world goes to zero, the only things left with a premium are the intangibles. Human friction basically goes from being an annoying cost to being the ultimate luxury.
Precisely. The source outlines very specific traits that survive this shift. Your creativity, your knowledge, your judgment, and your character.
The unprintable traits.
Right. These become the new hard assets of a post-scarcity world.
I'll push back on this a little, though.
Sure.
Won't human-made physical goods just become the new status symbol? Like,
Hmm.
look at watches today.
Okay, the Veblen good argument.
Yeah, a $10 smartwatch keeps better time than a $50,000 mechanical Swiss watch. But people still buy the mechanical watch because it took a human 1,000 hours to make it. It's a status symbol. People buy it to show they can afford human labor. Won't we just move the goalposts and maintain scarcity by valuing human flaws over robotic perfection?
It is a really sharp point. And, the artisanal premium will absolutely exist. There will always be a niche market for the human touch, precisely because of its inefficiency.
Right.
But we have to separate niche luxury from the macroeconomy.
Okay, explain that.
The artisanal premium might allow a few craftsmen to thrive, but it doesn't save the middle-class accountant or the logistics manager or the procurement officer whose identity is tied to their earning potential.
I
For the vast majority of the population, the baseline of survival housing, food, consumer goods drops to zero. You can't base a global societal identity on selling hand-carved chairs to billionaires.
That makes a lot of sense. The Veblen good is a lifeboat for a few, but the cruise ship is still sinking.
Right.
So the macro survival tactic for everyone else has to be internal.
Yes. The focus has to shift to those unprintable traits we talked about. Let's look at the mechanics of why these specific traits survive.
Let's do it.
A generative AI can scrape a database of every song ever written and output a technically perfect acoustic guitar track.
Sure, we see that happening already.
But it cannot manufacture the creativity required to write a song that genuinely resonates with the pain of a specific human experience. It is mimicking emotion, not feeling it.
And knowledge combined with judgment is a huge one too.
Absolutely.
Like, an AI has access to the sum total of human medical data, but it doesn't possess the lived human judgment to look a patient in the eye, read the room, and know exactly how to deliver a difficult diagnosis with empathy.
Empathy is a friction that machines just cannot replicate, and it certainly applies to character too.
Oh, definitely.
An algorithm cannot stand by a friend in a difficult time. It cannot act with moral courage when it is disadvantageous to do so. These are uniquely human frictions.
No robot can counterfeit those traits, and no central bank can print them to inflate their value away. Your character is completely immune to interest rate hikes.
That is a great way to put it. Which brings us to the operational takeaway of all this.
The action player.
Right. The most rational move, looking at the horizon of automation, is to consciously redirect your investments. Stop over-indexing on the scoreboard and start aggressively investing in these unprintable parts of yourself.
And I feel like this needs to be framed as an urgent warning, not just, a gentle self-help suggestion.
It is very urgent.
You need to do the hard work of decoupling your identity from your income today while you still have the agency to do it consciously.
Yes, before the choice is made for you.
Exactly. You do not want to wait for what is essentially a forced software update to your own soul.
Oh, man.
You do not want to wake up one morning, realize your job has been automated to zero, and find the universe flashing a message in your brain that says, self-worth now installing, please do not turn off your identity.
That is terrifying, but accurate. The transition from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset sounds utopian on paper, but psychologically it is going to be violent for people who resist it. The ego does not like letting go of the metrics it used to build itself.
It is going to be the ultimate test of adaptability. So to pull all of these threads together, the dollar and the entire psychological framework we built around it is inevitably going to get a massive historic humility lesson.
A very rude awakening.
The party's moving to the kitchen, and the touchdown stories of how much you earned in Q3 are over.
The core advice, really synthesized from everything we've looked at today, is simple but difficult.
What's the advice?
Try not to be standing too close to the dollar when that embarrassment happens. Build your foundation on the traits that cannot be printed and cannot be automated.
That is incredibly solid advice. And before we go, just a final casual apology. Greg, if you are listening, this was never about you.
Yeah, sorry, Greg.
Well, actually, maybe it was a little about you, Greg.
Just a little bit.
But seriously, as we close out today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. Something to explore on your own that builds on everything we've just talked about.
Always good to leave them thinking.
If we are truly moving toward a world where your identity can no longer be tied to what you buy, and it can no longer be tied to the number you earn, how will you choose to introduce yourself to a stranger 5 years from now?
That is a phenomenal question to sit with.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep focusing on the unprintable parts of yourselves, and we will catch you next time.